Okay, guys, Adam Trigger here. Time for On the Clock on Friday. Bad show yesterday. Sometimes it's going to go like that. We have a show on Wednesday where we hit essentially everything, and then yesterday get reverse swept. It's just how it's going to go, as always, and I want to make things clear. Like, if you want my bets and my picks, those are always at WagerTalk every day. That's where you're going to be able to get the games I am betting. So yesterday, for betting purposes, still a losing day for me, but I had a winner on Bucknell and then lost on Longwood. So a split for me. And if I am going to talk about something on this show that is a client player, it's something that I bet, I will typically let you know. Otherwise, this is really just sort of angles to help you with your handicapping, because there's so many teams, and it's just good to have someone else sort of giving you insight into games. So I hope that's how people are using it. But of course, if you agree with something that I break down, that's again, I'm not saying that these are going to lose more than they win more than they lose. But like, remember, we're taking, kind of some games at random and just trying to get out some info on them. And hopefully at some point we're going to hit one of the parlays of the day, which seemed to be cursed because that looked like a sure thing after Northeastern won and Northern Arizona had such a big lead. And sure enough, Northern Arizona choked the game away, which is now back-to-back parlay of the days that have gone down in pretty brutal fashion. But we move on. It's Friday, which means it's a small slate, but it means there's a lot of these small Northeastern schools that I tend to have good info on. We'll talk about a bunch of them here. When the buzzer goes off, it means it's time to move on. And I've decided that I'm going to make the marquee matchup. So you could argue this. I'm going to make the marquee matchup St. Joe's against St. Louis in the Atlantic 10 because I think it's as big as any other game tonight. It's ESPN2. It's 9 p.m. So St. Louis, St. Joe's. And I kind of think the wrong team is favored here. I think St. Joe's is the better of these two teams right now. I understand why people are high on St. Louis going forward. I do think there's upside to the St. Louis team, but my big takeaway is watching them play. So first one, they are incredibly soft defensively. They've been outside the top 200 defensively all year, and that is just not that. St. Joe's is not the type of team where you can just like not be up in the grill of guys like Eric Reynolds, Xavier Brown, Fleming in the paint is going to be an issue if you're not sort of like locked down defending them. If you're not on Eric Reynolds, he's going to put 30 up. I mean, I still think he might be, or he is the best player in this conference, at least the most talented. So, or one of them, of course. So that is an issue in my opinion for St. Louis. I think guarding this St. Joe's team, and then you've got the 5-out attack that Shirts made so famous, sort of bringing Indiana State into the national spotlight. But it hasn't been as smooth as it was last year yet. Some of that has to do with playing tougher competition, but I just don't think it's fully there. I think it needs more time to be polished. St. Louis turns the ball over too much. They don't help themselves at all at the free throw line, where they hit 64% as a team, and they're one of the worst in the country. And I'll wrap it up by saying, like, St. Joe's defensively, underrated. They've gotten better defensively last year to this year. 2 years ago to last year to this year, they've improved defensively each year. They're a top 75 defensive team by most metrics. And I think they show some value as the dog. So St. Joe's plus 2.5. That's one I've got my eye on. I have not made that a client play yet, but it is certainly on my short list for today. All right, let's move on to total of the day. And let's go to one of those smaller conferences. Let's talk NEC as the NEC gets conference play going tonight. Central Connecticut State, St. Francis, and my angle here. So I like the over here, and lost my notes on this one. Not sure where I wrote that down. That's okay. My angle on this one is essentially, I just think that both offenses are going to have an easier time against the opposing defense. Now you have two teams here that had to go out and play a bunch of bye games. This is nothing new for Nothing new for the Atlantic 10, or I'm sorry, for the NEC having to go out and play a lot of teams from power conferences. And so I think that's, that's hurt their offense a little bit. I don't think either of these teams are great. I think Central Connecticut State is okay defensively. Definitely one of the better defensive teams in this conference. St. Francis, I was at the St. Francis Lehigh game. And once Lehigh started to, first of all, they had issues defending the whole game. They just hit everything they threw up. But once Lehigh started to press and sort of pick up the tempo, you could tell that this team's not going to get many stops. They're a good team. I love the way they space the floor. They've got shooters, and they can go get streaky on offense. But getting stops against better competition is going to be tough, in my opinion, for St. Francis. They're just a little bit undersized, and not the best defensive unit. Let's just put it that way. The upside to the over here is the fact that St. Francis will spread the floor and they can get hot from distance. I thought that number was low, so total of the day is going to be over. I think it's like 130, in the low 130s. I should have wrote it down. The over in Central Connecticut State, St. Francis. Okay, let's move on to boots on the ground play. So I put up a poll for MAC games. Quinnipiac St. Peter's won the poll, but I decided I'm going to use Manhattan, Siena for our boots on the ground pick, meaning somewhere I've been, and Siena, the MVP arena, is a place I've been frequently, and that's where they'll play Manhattan tonight. This is another one that if I was getting like two more points of value here, it would be a no-brainer play on Manhattan for me. I think the books are starting to get sharp to Manhattan being a lot better than anyone gave them credit for coming into the season. Will Sidnor is awesome. He's a freshman. I know no one had him priced into their preseason projections for Manhattan, at least not the way they should have. He's their best player. He looks like a guy that ends up transferring out and ends up at a power conference or a bigger conference school. He's 6'8", just not the type of athlete that sticks around very long in the MAC these days. And, Manhattan, they have no depth, but their starting five is solid. I was down at the Manhattan Wagner game. They were the clear better team there. They've now, I believe they've covered 4 straight on the road, and they've won 3 straight or their last 3 road games. They won outright as an underdog. So they've been really undervalued. They're playing well. And the reason I think they could probably beat Siena tonight is Siena doesn't have a great answer for them. I think their starting 5, the Manhattan starting 5 is very similar to Siena's, matches up well. If Siena slows it down, then Manhattan's probably able to play their starting 5 the whole game. If Siena kind of plays faster, like they did against Cornell and had success doing against Cornell, you're playing the way Manhattan wants to play, getting up and down the floor, getting guys like Sidnor to the rim in transition. So this feels like a tricky spot for Siena. I like Manhattan plus the points. Even though I'm not getting enough points, I think Manhattan has a great chance to win this game. And if Siena takes money throughout the day, I may have to play back at that. But lean Manhattan plus the points. I think this ends up being a really good game. And that brings us to the poll pick. I was actually surprised. I thought for sure that Iona Marist or Siena Manhattan or the day game, which thankfully it didn't because I'm running late today, would have thought one of those would have won the poll, but it was Quinnipiac and St. Peter's got the most votes. That's the one we're breaking down. 90 seconds on the clock. I'll spend the 90 seconds kind of just talking about Quinnipiac and how I'll probably fade them for the rest of the season. So this is a team that most people, so like Manhattan, where I thought that they were totally incorrectly ranked after watching them play a couple times, Quinnipiac was a lot of people's picks to win the MAC. And I can tell you right now that this team's not winning the MAC. I'm not quite sure who is. There's no dominant team in this league this year, but Quinnipiac being the odds-on favorite to win the MAC is just incorrect. This team has just way too many issues. They're very sloppy. My theory is they very much miss Matt Belanc, who was their do-it-all stud player last year. And not having him has this team just doesn't have the gear that they had last year. They're 249th nationally in field goal percentage, a terrible 3-point shooting team, 363rd. It's one of the worst marks in the country. They don't move the ball well. They turn the ball over like crazy. They're outside the top 200 in most analytics on offense and defense, yet they want to play fast. So it creates like this very sloppy play because they're not great defensively. They're not great offensively, but they want to play at like a breakneck pace. It just really, or a faster pace. It just really hasn't worked. And then you run into St. Peter's. Even though Holloway's at Seton Hall now, this team still has a lot of that same identity. They want to slow it down. They're just gonna want to defend you for 40 minutes. And I think Quinnipiac struggles with that. I don't think they take care of the ball enough. I don't think they move the ball well enough. And aside from Savion Lewis, there's like no one else with court vision on the floor for this Quinnipiac team. So I like St. Peter's here. I was hoping to get them at closer to a pick. I think St. Peter's is the rightful favorite. That's one. If I can get a cheap money line, that's another one that I've got sort of on my radar for tonight. Parlay of the day, I'm going to keep it real simple. I'm just going to say Manhattan money line, St. Joe's money line. 2 underdogs, comes out to like plus 420. Let's see if we can, the 3-teamers haven't worked for us. Someone keeps ruining it. So let's see if we can get that. Manhattan money line, St. Joe's money line. I think if you're going to give me 4.5 to 1, which I think is right around what it is right now on that money line parlay, that's pretty decent value. 2 teams, I think, that are underdogs that have great chances to win their games tonight. If you want more college basketball Friday, there's still a bunch of games I wasn't able to get to. Tune into the WagerTalk College Basketball Show this afternoon. I'll be on, and you can ask questions about any of the games on tonight's board. And like and subscribe to the WagerTalk YouTube channel. Follow me on X at AdamTriggerWT and head over to WagerTalk. I've got a best bet up for tonight. I may add another. Appreciate you watching. Cash all your tickets. We'll see you in the morning.